Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 463 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week. Kicking things off with the owner of MTG Goldfish, Richard. How are you this fine Monday, Richard?
Good morning, Seth. Getting ready for the holidays.
Yes, it's the holiday season. Actually, a week from now, I think we're not doing a podcast next week, right? Because it's like Monday is actual Christmas Day, so we're gonna miss next week's podcast because of the holidays. We'll have one for New Year's though. We got a sweet year in review thing that we do every year, so that's gonna be coming up on New Year's. But before we get to the holidays or any of that, we got another co-host in Krim. Good morning, Krim. How are you today? How was the banana?
Morning. The banana I just had was amazing. I graduated apparently from applesauce, according to Richard, and had a pretty fun weekend. I mean, I went to another One Piece regionals, and I got 45th
Nice.
out of like a silly high number. So that
46.
Yeah, 45th.
46 out of 47. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Way higher than that. Okay, but like it gave me, the cool thing is they gave me like this like like there's a character Chopper, and it gave me like a special version, and it just says like, you know, like for the 3v3 cup, and you only got it if you got in top 60 something like that.
Oh, is it like super valuable because it's like is it like the secret lair magic promos they give out if you like do well at a magic con event? It's like the equivalent of that basically.
It's exactly that.
Nice.
Yeah, so
that's super cool.
It was a lot of fun.
So anyway, today we got some pretty interesting topics. So Ravnica Remastered, full spoiler out. We're going to talk a bit about that. There's some big WotC news as far as their actual workforce and layoffs. Going to talk about that. We want to talk a bit about what we've been playing lately. I've been playing a lot of Timeless, so we want to talk about the Timeless format. Richard has been attempting to break Modern, so we're going to talk a bit about that. There's some Magic art news, some fish mail, so we're going to be jumping around today. Before we get into all that, though, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit, and Card Conduit's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So if you ever get tired of the hassles of buy listing, you can skip them all with Card Conduit. You can use their curated service to send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more in pages to 5% service fee. And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use this sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance in pages to 2% fee. And either way, you're going to get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once your order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's
Our Patreon.
And we have a Patreon. Patreon, is it just patreon.com/MTGGoldfish? Is that the actual link to it?
Yes.
Okay. There's a patreon.com/MTGGoldfish. Check it out. We played Baldur's Gate and so forth and other things. So if you're interested, check that out as well. Anyway, let's talk some Magic. Let's start with, I guess, the big news of the week, which is we got a full set spoiled in 2 days. That set is Ravnica Remastered. So this is a full-on reprint set. The gimmick is it's all cards from Ravnica, which mostly means cards from the 3 big Ravnica blocks: OG Ravnica, Return to Ravnica, Guilds of Ravnica. But there's also some like Commander Precon cards, Jumpstart cards that are from Ravnica flavor-wise that made it to the set. What do you guys think of this set, Richard? Maybe give us a little overview, if you can, the TLDR of what's in the set, and let's talk a little bit about this one.
Okay. Of valuable cards in the base version, you have Cyclonic Rift, you have Bruvac, and I think that's it. Cloudstone Curio, I think. And then that's kind of it. The rest, like, Dark Confidant is here. That should tell you all you need to know. The special versions, though, they have Old Border everything. They have Borderless cards, and Krim nodding his head for the Borderless anime cards. And of course, if a product looks suspect, you add Shocklands.
Yeah,
Is that Divine Visitation?
Yeah, and Franco Mob Boss anime arts.
Krim is happily waving his anime cards around, but they are leaning hard on the anime to carry this set, I think. The anime and the Shocklands, because the main set doesn't have much value, right? Like, this is one of the worst EV looking sets we've seen in a while. Remember, this is a premium product where we've seen boxes go up for pre-order at 200. maybe they'll settle at 160 or something, but they're much above like the normal like box prices. These are premium. This is a premium product. So
Yeah.
what do we think?
Go ahead, Grim. Go ahead. I know you're hyped about anime cards, so at least you have something to say about the set.
Well, first off, the anime cards are strictly the only saving grace, I think, about it, right? Because otherwise, the only thing that you would want are like $4 cards or something like that. So I actually think that I love the anime art. I kind of just wish they did the entire thing like that and also gave me an anime Lazav, but they somehow didn't give me an anime guild leader. But other than that, I think what they're trying to give you through this product is the nostalgic factor of opening like these Ravnica cards again, right? But the value of the set is just not there. It feels really bad for how much this is gonna cost. So if for how much this is gonna cost you, like don't get me wrong, if it weren't for the fact that I Wizards was like nice enough to like send me like some to open, I don't know if I'd probably buy this, right? It's the problem I have with it is mostly just that, right? Like it's like if it weren't for the nostalgic factor of just seeing some of these old Ravnica cards, I probably wouldn't really buy it because it's just too expensive. However, I will say that the anime art is the saving grace of any set. So, woohoo! The weebs eating good again. Otherwise, I'm not really an old border guy, so I don't really care for old border cards.
I don't even know how much you can say there's nostalgia here, really. Like, I get it, like, OG Ravnica is pretty iconic, but then, like, most of these cards, many of these cards are, like, from the last few years, and then a lot of them have different art on them anyway, so it's not like you're cracking the original Bob and being like, oh, this brings me back to 2005 or something. Like, it's brand new art. To me, this set is, I don't know. They, like Richard said, they're definitely leaning on these treatments to carry, and I just don't think it's worth it. Like, I wouldn't buy it.
How long ago do you think 2005 is? Because there's not a few years ago. There's a lot from others. Like I think.
Right. But it's also like half Guilds of Ravnica from 2018, Jumpstart from 2020, Return to Ravnica 2013. So it's not like all 2005. Like that's a little part of it, but. Yeah, and even like the 2005 cards are like new art. So you're not getting like that nostalgia hit of like, oh, look at this original Bob or something. So do you think the special treatments can carry it, Richard? I'm actually very skeptical. Like, does Wizards just think they can toss Mastered in the title of a set and sell it for $200 and people will buy it? I feel like Wizards thinks that now. Like, if we just stick Masters in the title, it's going to be fine. And it's not. This set's horrible. Like, it's a flop.
I believe this will be a flop. This is anime smothering tide again. This Aurelia hurts my soul. This Aurelia is like so not Aurelia. Like it's just like a lot of generic anime art. I do like some like the Massacre Girl art, I think is amazing. I like Protean Hulk. But there's a lot of like
project.
Yeah, there's a lot of like just like I don't know, just anime for the sake of anime. Like Aurelia, you can make so much more fierce and in like a combat pose and like anything, right? Like it doesn't embody the character. At least it's an angel this time with 2 swords versus like anime smothering tithe. But I don't think so. And like the chase card Cyclonic Rift is not anime enough for the weebs. Are you willing to?
Are you kidding me?
Pay more money for the cow.
Isekai me in the cow, please.
Let's go. Movie from like 2005 where they're outrunning a tornado or something.
Twister?
Twister? Yeah, like this is what it reminds me of, like the cow and everything. But I don't know, man. This like I get that they put Bob in here, but like this is just like boomer magic. Like we don't play Bob. Like why is it here?
Why Richard? But Richard. That time I was reincarnated as a cute mob boss. Come on, dude.
But how many times can they keep pulling this card, Trim? How many times can they keep pulling this card?
Until there's an anime art of every card.
The thing is, though, like, so is anime art even, like, I know some people love it, similar to Old Border. Some people really love it. But I'm looking at prices of, like, the Enchanted Tales, the Borderless anime, and they're not, like, across the board that insane. Like doubling season's $45. That's like the same price as you'd pay for another doubling season. So I don't know, is like just anime art, is that gonna like greatly increase the value of the set? I know like if you get the most exclusive, like the parallel foil, you know, the 1 in a million like treatment with the foiling and everything, those can be very expensive. But I don't know, the prices of the anime cards from Enchanting Tales don't look ridiculously high to me, honestly. They look like a little bit higher, but like kind of what you would expect from the normal versions of those cards.
I think that's not a mark on anime cards. That's just look at Magic cards right now.
Right.
What Magic
like,
card? But I would consider these cards high for a Magic card now, right? And sure, maybe not all of them, because let's not lie here. Why am I gonna go out of my way and like Sneak Attack isn't like worth $1 million? But if you look at like Smothering Tithe, which I finally got the anime one yesterday, it feels so good. I finally found it, and that's what I mean. I finally found it. That tells you one thing: the weebs are fast. I don't know where they are, what hours they're shopping at, but they are fast. So like, it clearly sells to the weeb demographic, me included, because I am. And on top of that, like, the artwork is great. I love those. So I think is that enough to like? That's the problem is the anime art enough to sell an entire set, right?
That was
I think
where I was trying to go. Not like a mark against anime cards, but like the set is just so low value for the base versions of stuff that for me to be interested in cracking a box, some of these treatments got to be very high value, either the old border anime cards, and I'm just not sure they're enough high value for me to be like, oh, I'm going to drop $200 on a box and like hope I, get the right anime card to get my money back. Because I feel like this is just like such a hard don't open. I feel like WotC maybe just should not have made this set. Like, I think part of the problem is they're stuck with just Ravnica cards, and there's just not that many high value Ravnica cards. We see like Cyclonic Rift being bumped up to Mythic for the first time ever. We see Guardian Project being bumped up to Mythic just out of necessity, I think, because there's just nothing else that you can have high enough value to be a Mythic. So I didn't mean to bash the anime cards, even though they're like not my thing. I'm glad they do them because I know some people really like them. I'm just not sure that the anime cards or the old border shocks that I like are going to be valuable enough for me to want to spend $200 a box on this set. If this was $100 a box, I think it would be a good set. But at $200 a box, the premium pricing, I can't see opening it. Like,
that's
it seems
right
like,
there, Seth. You said they shouldn't print this product, but they should have made it. But they should have made it for $120. Like, there's nothing telling them that they have to sell it for $160, $200. They could have just made it a normal set release. Because, like, in general, reprints are good, right? Like, we're like, oh, reprints bring down the value of cards. That's great, but not if you charge, like, through the roof for them, right? Like, but if you actually charge, like, lower prices and kept reprinting the cards, then we're getting somewhere. But, like, I think there's the formula, right? Like, the old formula was when the set looks bad, add some fetches or shocks. The new formula is when the set looks bad, add fetches and shocks and anime cards.
And make them anime.
like anime. Like, the thing about anime is, like, where are the universes beyond haters? Like, my immersion, right?
What?
Like, I don't understand why anime gets a pass. Like, don't get me wrong. I play Honkai Star Rail. I'm a weeb. I'm a waifu collector. I still think this is weird. I think it's a lot of it is overdone. Kind of like full arts, like full art lands. At first, they were like really cool, but when you keep making them every set, it diminishes the value. Same with Old Border, which is present in this set as well. When you actually get an old Border card, you're like, oh, history. Like, I remember this as a kid. But when I open like a 2023 card fresh out of like Wilds of Eldraine or something, and it's Old Border, you're like, what the heck is this? Right? This is not right. So I don't know. I feel they're overdoing these gimmicks. And we're going to see if anime is enough to sell. I think it's not, right? Because if we were all anime hardcore people, we would be playing One Piece. You know what I mean? Like if I wanted anime, I can get it done proper, like with actual top tier anime. There are many anime card games in Japan, right? I could just watch anime. Like I don't need to play like sussy Aurelia here.
No. Wait, hold on. First off, what? No, that's not even what it is. Anywho,
Look at that art, man. I don't like the Aurelia
like,
art.
look. Whether or not I like the Aurelia art, right? Which, it's fine. Like the thing is, I think that it's nice to see the anime arts of things in Magic, and I think that's cool. I personally like that, but again, I do agree though that I don't think that. Essentially, let's just think of it that the anime arts are worth, right? Like that's the only thing carrying. That's your only hit. That's a pretty hard thing to hit. Just that. So then it makes me wonder, why not just buy the singles?
Yeah.
Right?
I think
yeah. Like I'm not an old border person, so again, I can't speak to that. A lot of people love old borders, and like they love seeing it. They want to open it. They want to like buy all of that too. So, like you're eating good if you're an old border / like anime lover, I guess. But other than that, I do think that they did do a really good job with multicolored cards and how beautiful they look in old border this set. Having seen them in person, they do pop very nice. But yeah, unless you're opening an anime art, it's a pretty big miss. So I just buy the singles.
I think I would add Old Border Shocks to the list. I imagine that those will be like somewhat valuable as far as things that you would actually be pretty happy opening from the set.
they?
But still, I mean, it's so hard to tell what prices are right now because it's so early. Like pre-sales have them all at like $50 a pop, which is like pretty good considering they're like $10 a pop. But it's so early, I don't put too much weight in those prices. I'm guessing they're like kind of inflated. But really, even if you add the shocks to the list, that's still a pretty small number of cards, right? You need to hit a good anime card or a retro shock land. It's just be so risky to buy a box. So I lean towards hopefully prices drop. We'll see if enough of it sells to actually brings prices down. But maybe this is a good time to like snag the shock lands you need for Commander or whatever, since they're getting reprinted again. So yeah, I don't know if I'd crack a box, but at least we're getting more good land reprints that people are going to need for Commander.
Can I boomery yell at people? So yes. Like the old border shocks, I hate them so much. They look like fetch lands. They look like fetch lands because they cut the mana tapping symbols, right? So which apparently I read on the internet that that's perfectly fine. So if a land has basic land types like forest or swamp, it's implied to have the tap. But they cut that, and all you see is like old border, like two colors, say like white black, and you see like hay life in there. You're like, oh, that must be that must be a new anime fetch land, Like I hate it, Seth. I hate everything about this. What do you think about this?
Richard, are you just randomly gonna?
He's gonna be sacking his.
Look at God
Right.
It looks like a fetch land. You know what,
Richard? Did you just forget how they work? Like, is that do you need the reminder?
Look. Remember when people would like cast Ponder and then they would brainstorm, or like they would brainstorm and cast Ponder because they're like, oh, 1 mana cantrip and like brain turns off.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Who does that? No, who did that? Nobody did that.
yo, legacy players. I'm sure. Done that. But I don't like how they look. Because they're old border, and the only old border dual lands that are played are fetches for like 15, 20 years of Magic. This like makes my brain hurt, and I dislike it. That's my old man. Get off my lawn.
Yeah, that sounds like a nitpick. I don't even like old border, and it's
why can't they just add the tappy tappies?
You might be
Richard
right.
want tappies.
Imagine you're a new player.
The tap
you're like, what is this?
Yeah. If you're a new player, you probably think they're horrible anyway. They're lands you gotta pay life for. Who wants to pay life for?
Like it doesn't even matter if you're new. Yeah, like this is garbage. I don't want to lose 2 life.
I like how they look personally. I think I could see adding the tap symbol. I think they'd look better with the tap symbol, but I don't know. Like, we live in such a weird world today. It's kind of the same issue as like Commander, right? With so many different versions, you don't recognize everything like you used to. I think it's kind of the same issue, and we just have to like get over it, I guess, because that's how Magic is today. Like our old, like, oh, if it's old border, it's a fetch. Like that heuristic is just not going to.
Can I derail us and complain further? The Jurassic Park lands. The swamp.
Mm-hmm.
My opponent played it. Wait, is it Jurassic
and
Park?
You thought it was a dinosaur?
No. The Lost Caverns one, I think. The one where it's like one color and there's like a little square in the bottom. I swear to God, my opponent tapped it, and I thought they were going to preordain, and then they thought seized me, and I like did a double take because the land was so blue, and it's like 2023 art, right? It's just like some like blob there.
Yeah.
I was like, what? That was a swamp? You kidding me? I had to right click it and double check.
Ooh, you have to be careful with that opinion. I brought that up about Kamigawa, where there's a swamp that looks very red like a mountain, and so many people got so mad. Don't you see the swamp symbol on there?
I think it's Lost Caverns. Yeah, it's Lost Caverns. It's Lost Caverns. It's so blue. I was so ready for the preordain, and I got Thoughtseize, and I was like, what? I hate this.
2023 Magic.
Y'all are like yelling at the clouds right now. You're showing that you're way too MTG boomer right now.
Yo, we gotta get the boomer. We gotta get the boomer word out there, Krim.
Yeah. Richard, I think I found the card for you and Seth. And don't worry, it's from One Piece. It's Garp. He's a 70-year-old man who just screams. There it is.
Well, since we're in the mood of screaming about things, let's move on to our next topic, which is kind of a big one and a sad one. There were some layoffs announced at Hasbro/WotC this week. Richard, what's the details on these layoffs?
All right, Hasbro said it would cut 1,100 jobs right before Christmas. So year-end cleanup, 1,100 jobs. Hasbro's not doing well. They were blaming their continued slump in toy sales. Initially, people thought that WotC people would be safe, but then as the news came out, there were lots of people from Wizards, from Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons saying they got hit with the layoff. So it looks like it's company wide. That would be, I think, roughly 20% of the workforce is gone. And earlier this year, they had already cut 800 jobs. So this was another round. So Daddy Hasbro not doing well. And it's spilling over to Magic, right? Because Magic is doing like the best it's ever been, but they still got hit by the cuts.
It's really sad seeing some of the people that I know who are like excited to leave their place. They moved from like, my area to go up to like, where Wizards is to work, and it was their dream job and all that. It's really sad to see this because again, I don't understand. So let me get this straight. The only division that was making money for you, you cut from that. Like you cut from that, and you have like your CEO, whoever, who actually has a crazy bonus and all of that. Like, why would you not cut some of your bonus and all of that too? And like, I mean, like, because I think one of the things that I want to talk about, like only lightly, and again, you can find this online too. When the Wii U dropped, it like tanked. It did like terrible, and the Nintendo CEO actually took a huge pay cut from himself just so that they didn't have to like do layoffs and all that stuff. And it's just like, dude, wait, hold on. Why wouldn't you do that? Right? I have so many questions about that. It just seems kind of, maybe we should fix some things at the top here. Why aren't we fixing some things at the top here? On top of that, like, why the hell are you cutting from the one like branch that has made you money? I don't understand that.
That's the infuriating part for me is like last year Wizards, all the big press, topped $1 million for the first time, record year. This year, if you look at any of their quarterly reports, Wizards up, Magic up, record-setting year, best-selling set of all time. Like, the CEO, Chris Cox, goes out and boasts about this every time he has to do an earnings call, how well Wizards is doing. And then a week or two before the holidays, like laying off a chunk of your staff. How would you feel as one of those people? Like, what do you do? Like, I get it if you're gotta lay off your struggling movie studio that you never should have bought to begin with, or, Monopoly isn't selling like it used to in the 30s or whatever. But why are you laying off the people that are actually making you money? Like, I don't get it. What do you think, Richard? You're the CEO sort of Goldfish. Like,
also, both you and I have been in like I believe, right? Like, Richard, you've also been in the tech company, right? The tech industries.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, like this is like kind of the norm in like industry and just kind of like workforce wide anywhere around this time. Lots of layoffs happen.
So
Not
what
a-
they're doing is they're laying off people to set the budget for 2024. So you'll see like a lot of these layoffs coming. And then this is not abnormal, as like a lot of companies have laid off people this
We
year.
shouldn't be used to this, by the way. This is like a bad thing that we're used to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the asterisk here is a lot of companies will use this to like clean up, right? Like, you know, everyone else is doing it. They're not really going to blame us. Like, the economy is bad. The easy example you can see is COVID. When COVID happened, like, things got more expensive, and there was some truth to that, right? But when things got fixed, the prices didn't come back, right? Because everyone used this excuse to like, oh, COVID, you know, supply chain, logistics, and the increased prices. And then when things return to normal, there's like, yeah, whatever. No, you know, we already dealt with the backlash. Like, you know, it's done. Seth mentioned an interesting thing. So the movie thing they got. For some reason we were talking about some of the greatest acquisitions ever in our group chat, and we're like, Golden State Warriors in 2010 bought for $450 million. Today it's like $7 billion, right? They've won a couple championships here or there,
Yeah.
right? But like
It's okay, the
$450
Kings are doing
million
that.
just to $7 billion. Hasbro bought E1, which I don't even know what that is, for $4 billion. Sold it this year for $500 million.
Yo, that's up, right? That's up.
It wasn't even.
There are more digits in the number. Yes, there are more. But like
Marvel bought for like $4 billion, right? By Disney. I think they made a little bit of that back.
Like when you see something, you should see part of the C-suite getting axed, right? Like, you know, there are people behind this investment that costs $3.5 billion. And nothing really happened, but like, you know, random low level, you know, frontline employees are getting the hit.
Yeah, they're paying for that mistake and like all those mistakes.
Yeah.
And they bought it in 2019 too, so that is a lot of depreciation in like 4 years.
They basically
That's not even that long.
COVID high and then sold COVID low. I will say though, I think part of WotC was gonna get hit because like the company is supposed to help the struggling parts. Like if you only kept the parts that made money and axed everyone else, you'd only have Wizards of the Coast left, which I know some people want, but like all the other game divisions would go. And I think the Hasbro thought is like, they're struggling, but if we keep going, they'll recover, right? So like the good part of the company is picking up the slack.
That's so flawed. Like Wizards can't carry
but
all
imagine
of that,
you're
right?
like, oh, I want to join Monopoly and work on Monopoly, right? And then Monopoly has a down year, you're fired. You're like, what? You know what I mean? Like, so there is the other side of that. It does suck, but I think they're trying to, you know, presumably proportionately less from WotC, but like the WotC part is propping up the rest of the company, right? And that's kind of their plan, because 2024 everyone's gonna buy Monopoly again, right? Or like, you know,
sure.
Legends.
And
like that's the plan, right? This is an off year. Magic will take up the slack, and then in other years, because remember initially when Wizards came on, I'm sure Hasbro poured some amount of money into Wizards to grow it, and that came at the expense of the other franchises, right? So
I still think that Wizards needs to leave, and I'm sure tons of others agree with this, that they probably need to leave Hasbro somehow, but it's not.
I really wish I knew how important Hasbro was. Like when Wizards got Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Was that
Hasbro?
Was it like, hey guys, if like you don't do it, we're never gonna make a toy for you again? Or, you know, look how
Marvel.
big we are. We are Hasbro. You can trust us. Whereas they're like, who's Wizards of the Coast? Probably not, because like fantasy and all that. But like people discredit the Hasbro name, but I'm sure it's done something useful, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm sure they can pull the old. Do you want Lord of the Rings Monopoly or not on someone, right? Like I think there's got to be some weight there.
What do you think about the just overall state of things? So we had these big layoffs. We had like Hipsters of the Coast and Card Kingdom kind of stopping their content. We had Troll and Toad shut down a couple months ago. This is all stuff we've talked about over like the last few months. Is this like concerning at all about the overall direction of the game, or are these things unrelated and not actually some sort of signal of the overall health of where Magic's at?
I mean, the economy sucks.
Yeah.
Right?
So it might just be the
it's not like
meta more
this
than
is
anything.
strictly this, but is it an overcorrection? Like, you don't know, right? Like, when the rest of the economy picks up, will everyone go back to buying Monopoly and Secret Layers? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is not abnormal given the rest of the economy. But I don't know. Like
How
maybe some people overinvested during COVID, right? Because during COVID there was a lot of like money going around, a lot of like government loans that don't need to be paid back, a lot of like stimulus things happening.
Yep.
And then now that's all kind of dried up, right? So if you took all that money and hired a bunch of people, well, that's tough, right?
Yeah.
So that correction is happening. Where it goes, I don't know.
There's also the
Hopefully this
collectible
is
boom.
just like temporary and we're all good. But I think some of like the old content things, like it was just like time for them to move on, right? Because that's not how we use content anymore. That is kind of akin to like the transition from letters to email or something, right? Like the way people do things. Maybe that's too harsh. Maybe it's like the transition from YouTube to TikTok. Like both things are still used, but like there are kids that only watch TikTok and like no YouTube whatsoever. Or people don't know what a Facebook is or an Instagram is. They use Snapchat, right? Like those kind of things, right? So some of that is happening. But hopefully we pull through and we don't pull through based off our boomer wallets, because like the first joke we all thought of is like more Secret Layers, right? Like more anime cards. Here we come, right?
Remaster
Like,
something. Yeah.
Hasbro needs some money, right? Time to print another serialized card. Call out Post Malone, right? So hopefully they have some actual plan here, and it's not just print some more expensive whale bait.
But I also don't think that alone, like there's no one thing they could print that I think fixes the issue here. The issue is so much bigger than that.
And the other thing we're missing in all this is like Magic's kind of crushing it. So I don't even like, this isn't because Magic is doing poorly. Like Magic's doing really well, record-breaking year again this year. Like, so in some sense, I don't know if there's anything Wizards could do, right? Like it's not like Wizards did something wrong and now people need to be laid off because there's not enough money to go wrong. It seems like from a financial perspective, at least, Wizards is doing everything right and they're still like getting laid off, which has to make it harder. Like if I worked at a company that was struggling and got laid off, it would suck, but at least I'd be like, okay, like I get it. Like there's just not money to pay everyone. So something's got to change, but it's got to be frustrating to be like, wow, record breaking year and I lose my job. That's got to be
yeah. I think that's the hardest part there. It's like, how do you boast the record breaking year and then like, and then lay off like a ton of your workforce? It's just kind of like absolutely wild. So again, this means that there's definitely something at the top that needs fixing, not, like the ground floor. So I don't understand why this, like, it just shouldn't. Oh God, work morale must be pretty miserable because you did everything right? Yeah. You had a good year and you still got axed.
I mean, there's no world in which axing 20% of your workforce, like right before the holidays, would be good for company morale, right? Like, but it's gotta be bad.
For those that aren't familiar with also that whole work culture, like that area of it, like it happens a lot too. It's really bad that we're just kind of like accustomed to it, right? I mean, I used to work in that industry and I've seen just like randomly the person to my left not be there around the same time of year.
Well, let's move on from the world of layoffs to the world of actually playing some Magic. So I want to talk a bit about Timeless. So Timeless is the new format on Magic Arena. It's like Arena Vintage. I've been playing a ton of Timeless. I think, Krim, you've been playing it a bit too, right? What do you think? How do you, now that we've gotten to actually play with the format, what's your first take of the Timeless format? Are you liking it?
There are so many disgusting interactions and I love it. And it's so powerfully fun. And most importantly, I love how few people don't play around Stifle. Like how few people don't play around the Stifle, and like, oh my God, I am Stifle so many arena zoomers.
The brand new legacy experience. Like when you crack your fetches actually matters, people.
Yep. Like my favorite part is I'll wait till the end of your turn. Oh, will you? Okay, cool. So you gave me a chance to play my land, and now I'm going to stifle you. Also with the new Merfolk Tishana's Tidebinder that also stifles.
Yeah.
Like I'm out here just playing stifle.net. Like and it's just getting people. It just legitimately gets people. Other than that though, like Bowmaster is king. Bowmaster is the card of the format, is the premier card. Out of everything that we're talking about, it is Bowmasters that will just win the game. So, obviously there's Monkey, but remember, that's the only way you're playing an X1. It's if it's only the greatest X1 to exist in the one-drop game, right? The format is very much so Ragavan, Bowmasters, and like those are the battles that I'm seeing. Oh, and Money Pile. Money Pile is running unchecked, and Oko is running free, and I'm laying down the smackdown with some Oko again.
I mean, somehow with all these really strong cards unbanned, and we're talking about cards that are banned back to vintage in some cases, or we're legacy modern, like these historically strong cards, the format's actually felt oddly balanced to me so far. It's only been a couple of weeks, but I was expecting like something to rise up. And like when they did the test events for these no ban list formats, it was just like all channel all the time. Like every other match I played was against someone trying to turn through channel. It hasn't felt like this. There's a lot of Lurises. I see a lot of Luris Bowmaster Ragavan decks. That's probably the archetype I play against most. But it seems like all these really powerful cards somehow have ended up, at least for now, in a pretty healthy place. And this has been the most fun I've had playing Arena in like a couple of years, probably. This format's just, it's so much fun. It feels like Legacy, really. Like you have the brainstorm interactions, like trying to play through the Bowmasters. You have fetch lands trying to play against the Stifles. There's so many of these like tiny interactions that if you're used to playing Explorer or even Historic, you don't have to think about it. You don't think about your land. What land do I fetch up? When do I crack my fetch land? Can I cast my brainstorm now without getting blown out by an Orcish Bowmaster? All of that stuff is on the table in Timeless, and it's made it a really, really fun format. I'm really excited for like the future of this format, because not only do we have it now. Oh, go ahead.
Or no. You're right. Like keep going.
It's sweet now, and there's so much potential for like adding new cards into this format as we keep getting these like Enchanted Tales stuff. So it seems like it's going to keep evolving since all the cards that are on Arena are going to be legal there. So I'm really hyped about the future of it as well. But what were you going to say, Krim?
Oh, just like another thing that I like people should be doing, because you mentioned how like when to fetch, it's like, yo, y'all need to play more basics. like seriously.
Blood Moon
is very real. I play around it. I see a shred of red. I'm like, no, you're not getting me. Like I am fetching a basic, and like this. Are you now feeling, Seth, because Modern, right? We always thought like Modern, we talk about it's a 15 life format. People are now realizing that, hey, you're now, like, you only need to deal 3 damage against additional damage against red. Or red only has to deal 3 additional damage, and then that's 4 bolts, and you die. So bolt is happening, and people are learning about where they can fetch, how, like, when to shock, and shocking really matters. So, yeah, like, this is a pretty powerful format that has been pretty damn fun.
Yeah, I think people play too many shocks with their fetch lands. I think that's something you learn. Look at like modern lists or something. Like a lot of times you only need like a couple of shocks
4 or 5.
and then some basics, and even more with the fact that Blood Moon's like an actual card that people play in the format. I've Blood Moon people plenty of times and gotten Blood Moon plenty of times. If there is a criticism I have of the format, and I hope they fix this in the future, like a lot of the cards that are unique to the format, the cards that used to be banned, came from Strixhaven Mystical Archives, and a lot of them are rares and mythics, even though they're traditionally like commons or uncommons. So like Brainstorm's a rare wild card, Lightning Bolt's a rare wild card, Swords to Plowshare's a rare wild card. So the economy aspect is really rough for people getting into it. Like if you don't already have a historic collection, and even if you do, needing to spend 20 wild cards on fetch lands plus get all these like staple utility spells that are usually commons that are actually rares is just, that's a lot for people to get into the format. So I hope we see like bolts and so forth actually become common at some point, so more people can get into the format. That would be something I'd really like to see.
Do you remember when they said they wanted to charge us 2 wild cards?
Yeah, what would Timeless be? 4 wild cards for Timeless?
Well, I think they already are charging us 2 wild cards. They pretty much have. Like this format has made it so that we've reverted back to hey, you want to get into historic? It's double wild card season all the time. This is that's really bad. Like that is like hilariously bad. You don't have to emulate the paywall that is like paper when it comes to getting into like eternal formats, right? Especially if this is your Arena eternal format. It's like Kind of weird, right? Like I don't understand this. Like, why upshift all of that? Now, of course, did they make that, like, you know, did they make these cards with that format in mind? No. But regardless, it's Arena. You can fix that. You could just simply fix that.
Yeah, you could just hit a couple buttons.
Oh, can I talk about Honkai Star Rail?
Sure.
Let me drop you Honkai Star Rail, okay? They won Game of the Year, blah blah blah. Mobile Game of the Year, D&D.
Oh yeah, I was like,
of the year.
Baldur's Gate won.
Yeah,
Game
Baldur's
of the Year.
Gate. But they so basically their whole business model is they release a new 5-star character like every month. It's like 2 per patch of patches every 2 months, and they're just like, hey guys, this next one's on us, free 5-star. By the way, each time they release one of these, it's like 20 million in revenue or something for them off like iOS alone, based on the charts. They're just like, we know that if we give you free characters, you'll keep playing, and long term that generates more money. Wizards should have been like, hey, everyone, free set of fetch lands, right? Or like free set of lightning bolts, swords to plowshares, whatever. Like, it cost them like absolutely nothing. I don't know why they never do the players a solid and just be like, look, we could have charged you money for this, but we're not. Here you go, right? Like, the biggest problem with getting to Timeless is like you need wild cards for all the fetches, right? And then these staple cards, like, these are true staples, right? Like lightning bolts, swords to plowshares, things like that. Brainstorm, you need them to play the format. That's a lot of wild cards just to test out this format that you don't know that's going to be good or not. So they totally should have just given free stuff to players to let them into the format, but they didn't.
I don't know. In Wizards' defense, they gave me 2,000 XP once.
Dude, I don't know why I didn't think about that. You're right. Never mind. Timeless, here I come.
But yeah,
I wish they were more
why they
aggressive
do that
in
more.
this kind of marketing, because it would actually work, right? Or what they could do is like have Timeless be free for a week for everyone. You play it. It's so fun. You're like, okay, I'll drop 40 wild cards. Like, they could do literally anything better than like what they did to like promote this format, but they didn't. So I'm kind of sad.
What do you think, Grim? Is this format the future of Eternal formats on Arena? Like, I'm really liking it right now. Do you think I'll still be liking it a year from now? Or do you think it's going to end up like disgusting and broken and like whatever in the future? Like, is it just super fun right now because it's fresh and new and hasn't been solved yet? Or is this what it's going to look like moving forward, you think?
I mean, let's be honest here. How, like, they would have to print some very wild new cards to beat out some of Magic's Hall of Famers, right? Like, these are, like, when it comes to cards, these are the cards, right? So, just like, you know, like Legacy kind of lightly rotates here and there, but for the most part, you still see a core batch of things from Blue and all that. So, you'll see a lot of these cards for a while. But the nice thing about this is, I think, let's just go with like Historic last, right? I loved Historic. I thought it was fun. But there was this level of, as funny as it sounds, in extreme imbalance, because there were some cards that just had no right being that strong in the format. And then like some like that were just like insanely weak compared to that, right? So this format finally, I think it balances itself out because it allows a ton of the all-time powerful cards to get into the format, like Counterspell, Bolt, and all of that, to balance out the monkey and all of that. So I think we finally, for the first time on Arena, have a true Eternal format. And I love this, and I think it's something that you'll like if you enjoy Eternal formats. The only difficulty is, again, we don't need to emulate the scarcity of paper. Like, we don't need to do that. Like, when it comes to this, right? This is just one of those things where they could this format would be amazing and blow up. But I think that also this is very much so for like Arena whales and longtime Arena players, right? Because it is so expensive to get into. So I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun for as much as you like an Eternal format. It'll suffer from the same things that all Eternal formats will suffer from, is that you'll see these cards all the time. Things won't rotate, right? So it just comes down to how much do you enjoy Eternal formats?
Yeah. After brainstorming, it's gonna be hard to go back to historic now. I want my fetches and my brainstorms.
Snaps.
Bolts. I don't know if it'll
snap
wear off
bolt again.
eventually. Oh, bolt snap. Yeah, I got someone with bolt snap bolt 2 in one game. For me, like, it's hard to imagine going back to historic right now. Maybe that'll change in the future, but right now I'm really living timeless. And one last thing, if you're someone who doesn't like the digital only cards, they almost don't exist in this format. Like, my experience has been, I've played against, I can't even know, in like hundreds of matches at this point, a handful of them, like once or twice. Like, I saw Crucius once. I saw the weird negate thing once, like the negate counter spell that does something weird. Like, but really, if that's your concern, because I've seen a lot of people say this, like on Reddit or social media, like, oh, it's another format with digital only cards. They really, like, yes, they are legal, but your odds of actually playing against them are so little. Don't let that be the thing that keeps you from trying timeless. Like, if that's your problem, it's in practice, it's really not something you're going to see much at all.
Yeah, they're actually throwing the game by playing these digital cards.
Yeah, they're just worse than the real cards, so people don't play them. Yeah, but I have another question about us playing playing Magic. Richard, you were on a quest to break Modern with some standard cards mostly. How was your Modern quest going?
Oh my god. Okay, Modern is actually the best it's ever been because I found one little trick. Put that in the YouTube thumb. So in a podcast that's coming up, okay, we're recording out a sequence, so you need some context. So I poo-pooed Bowmasters in Jund. I'm like, Bowmasters complete trash. And then we memed around and we're like, Mosswood Dread Knight. We somehow arrived at Mosswood Dread Knight. The Golgari 2-drop from standard. So I was like, I'm gonna 5-0 a league with it in Jund, right? I'll show you how trash Bowmasters is by like playing this like terrible card. It turns out Mosswood Dread Knight is Bomb 2.0. Like, I am not even joking. Like, not only is it doing well in the deck and has revived the archetype, in my opinion, it is actually like the key card in several games. Like, it is like come down because it's essentially Bloodbraid Elf / Bob that never dies. Like, it's just inevitable. And it is actually crazy. I am very close to 5-0ing. It is. No, I did. I got stuffed by stupid burn, but it is like this is like, so if you like Boomer Jund, and I mean like real Boomer Jund, pre Ren and 6, this is the deck. Like you play Restless Cottage and you play Mosswood Dread Knight, and it feels like old Jund where you're like, all I need to do is get us both empty-handed, and I will win. And by win, I mean like I have 51% over 49% you, right? Like, prior to this, as soon as you get empty-handed,
Richard,
you're
that
dead.
was also the biggest like gaslighting an entire like a gaming community did to themselves. that like propped up this like Jund thing, that propaganda that just was not.
Jund is so good. So what happened is we lost the way. So Ren and 6 screwed everyone up, right? Because Ren and 6 made people cut creature lands, and there was a time of Field of Ruin as well. Mosswood Dread Knight is such a house now. It's Raging Ravine that doesn't die to Lightning Bolt, and it gains you life, and it's graveyard hate too. So it is so crazy. This is the most fun I've ever had playing Jund in like literally like 5 years or something. We just gotta undo. Like, Monkey is a trap, Bowmasters is a trap, Voidwalker is a trap. These are all trap cards in Jund, right? Like, Mosswood Dread Knight is the truth. It is so crazy. I know you don't believe it, but Krim, I got you. No. Another card I've been seeing so often. Guess who's back? Tiago Chan.
Oh, Snapcaster?
Snap? I have seen so many Snapcaster mages. So Flame of Andor Snapcaster mage is a thing people are doing. And apparently it's good now because people aren't playing Scam. I don't know why this suddenly popped up because this has been a while, but there's so much Snapcastering going on now. It really feels like old pre-Modern Horizons. Magic, because like Grief sucks now. Grief sucks. Like, you can't do the Grief scam in Orzhov. It without Fury, like, that deck is kind of loose, so you never see it. You don't see many Solitudes because Beans is gone. So it's actually feels like very fresh and nice. And you know, this could be the honeymoon stage because bannings and like everyone's doing whatever, but Like I'm playing Abzan now, and it's a house, and I get disrespected all the time. People are like, "Oh, that's so cute. You playing Siege Rhino?" And I'm like, "Children, suck it, fool, die." They're like, "Oh, boss with Dread Knight, are you doing against the odds?" And then I can't kill it. You've drawn like 4 cards. It keeps coming. It's so much fun. Like you guys,
What
guys
are
need to
you
go see
playing?
That
You guys
actually
need
does
to see
sound
Boss
super
with Dread
fun.
Knight. It is so
I am
insane
so
how
curious.
like stupid it looks. So dumb, but it's actually Bloodbraid / Bob that never ends. You just draw unlimited cards.
It's Bloodbraid plus. Hold on. What are you playing against? Like, what are these matchups? Because this card feels. You're telling me to play whatever, something cottage, a tapped creature land in the year 2023.
Yeah, people are like Bolton collapse. You know, they're like prismatic ending. You're like suckers, right? Get in there.
Is it better than Raging Ravine? That's like the Raging Ravine replacement at this point.
So I would try. So the problem with the Raging Ravine is you want black.
Right.
Like that is sus in itself. But like I feel there's no point for red. I think Abzan is actually the stronger Jund right now. Because you have prismatic ending. And you have Vindicate. Vindicate is key card, I think. But yeah, I think they're the truth. Like people like it sounds really
what are
dumb.
these?
Just try.
What are
Boss with
these
Dread
fair
Knight,
cards?
and Jund. Just do it. Like think of like stuff like Rhinos. Like Rhinos is super fair. Like Murktide is super fair. Yawgmoth is a bad match for this deck, but like all these decks are like very fair, and not a lot
Tron?
of people can exile with Solitude gone.
Yeah.
What
Right.
about Tron, Amulet? Wait, hold on. How does your deck beat Rhinos?
You grind them out.
Fatal
How do you-
push them. It's only 2 fatal pushes.
Like a
Hold on,
point is
how are
bigger
you
than a Rhino.
grinding them out is my question.
Boss
here.
with
Like,
Dread Knight and Restless
Yeah.
Cottage. It sounds really dumb. I get it, but you guys try
you
it.
are
Like,
saying
I-
names. Yes, you have said
You're gonna-
names of cards. I get that.
You're gonna have to ship me your list. I gotta try
Yeah.
this now. I gotta try this Moss with
is
Dread Knight and
like,
Modern
it was a meme at
Shenanigans.
first, but it like I played so many games where I'm like, actually, this is not just a filler card, but this Moss with Dread Knight was key for me winning this match. Like, I have that moment like 3 or 4 times a league where you're like, oh, you know, if you're not playing white base removal, you're like, sucker, you can't deal with this. I'm just gonna draw more removal, remove your Murktides, and like get in there. And let's not overblow it. It's Jund, right? So like my good Jund,
yeah.
like 52%, 48%, right? But like every single game is very close.
Was Jund ever 52%? I feel like Jund is like maybe 40, like 50.05.
Yeah.
Like,
I
you know,
think the
like
best Jund has been is like 49% or something, right?
yeah,
Like, that's
you're moving too many numbers there, buddy. I
and
don't,
then it's like D&D. That's the base. You add your skill modifier of +2, and you get to
Oh.
51.49 because people are like Moss with Dread Knight. You just smack them silly with it. It's good.
You
you might be
bonus
getting
points.
the jump on some people because they don't take you seriously because
I
you're
was
playing
gonna
some
say,
standard.
They do.
cards.
I've got so many
Yeah.
salty comments. They're like, ugh, what are these league results I played? And they list like 5 tier 3 decks. and then they list my deck. And I'm like, you just don't understand the power of Abzan.
Don't understand.
I think both can be true. What are these league results? And also that I mean, like, I don't know, man. Like this, I
really
I gotta see
it
the
really
list,
brings
man.
me back to old modern. It really brings
you
me
have
back
to
old
show me
modern.
the list,
Mm,
dude.
that's
You gotta
the-
So,
show.
watch.
The
Like, you can do
listeners-
it against the odds set, and people will throw it out because you're gonna cruise to an easy 5-0, and they're like, "What is
Too
this not
good.
The deck is too good."
This is where Seth is gonna message us in the group chat. It's like, dude, I just can't get a win. Like, I just
Yeah.
keep drawing this really bad. Like,
I need to call
Moss
Reduke.
with Dread
Someone
Knight.
get me on the line with Reduke. I figured it out. Have you
That's-
tried
You broke
Moss
it.
with
that's
Dread Knight?
Reduke. Reduke will beat people with like a ham sandwich, right? So like this is you can't ask him that.
It's so good. I can't believe how good this is. Like I feel like playing standard now, just like I play Moss
Dude.
with Dread Knight on Arena.
You should play
I
stand,
knew it.
but that's a separate topic. But like, I can't. No, dude.
It's so- Crib, you gotta come back. You can Snapcaster is back on the menu. People
Oh.
Well, if I'm trying to-
Snapcastering, they're preordaining, they're getting people
Oh,
a
yeah.
tide binder.
Oh.
I
Well, I'm glad Modern's in a good place. I'm gonna have to try the deck list because that sounds super sweet, and I love the like retro vibes of it. It would be really cool to see a fair deck like that grinding people out. But one other bit of news today before we get to a fish mail, the original Force of Will artwork sold for $350,000 at a heritage auction. Apparently, someone bought it back in the '90s for $2,000. Speaking of good investments, $2,000 back in the '90s, $350K it went for at auction, which. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. As far as I can tell, that's a record for Magic art. No Magic art sold for more than that at auction. Maybe I'm missing it. That's for me, like searching around on Google. And I know the record was 177,000 for Drizzt Do'Urden from the D&D set 2 years ago. So unless something has beat it since then, yeah.
I'm more so surprised that the most expensive art was a current card. But I guess because it was
D&D thing.
side?
Like, I think it's a pretty iconic D&D character, so maybe you're hitting on both audiences there. But yeah, so that's kind of an interesting tidbit. But anyway, fish mail. Do we have some fish mail this week, Richard?
All right. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail. We'll get to your questions on air. G Sensiglo, about the layoffs, do you think WotC firing team responsible for giving the green light to Baldur's Gate 3? Or what do you think about that? So Larian Studios put out an article or statement saying that they're sad that the from the initial room that they sat down with Wizards of the Coast and where Baldur's Gate 3, the video game, was incepted, they're like, no one is at the company still. So also Game of the Year, one of the biggest successes for mainstream is not immune. Baldur's Gate 3 team.
Wait,
so the part of the D&D team that was responsible for Baldur's Gate was axed.
Oh, okay. So Wizards didn't make Baldur's Gate, right? They hired out the studio for it.
Yeah. So Larian Studios is the company that made it. They just
but obviously Wizards supported them, right? And
right.
The people that came up
the
with
D&D people,
initial launch of it, they're no longer there.
I mean, that's similar to the Magic thing we were talking about earlier, right? Like, just because you're breaking records this year doesn't necessarily mean your job is safe, as sad as that is.
That one seems wrong because I think one of the weirdest disconnects at Wizards is how popular Dungeons and Dragons is and how little money they make. Like the surprise, like how popular Baldur's Gate 3 is, like how well the movie did. And like, other than that, they make like no money, right? They sell like books, like people even buy the books and that's it, right? Whereas I feel like Wizards does a good job of getting money from Magic players. They do a very bad job of getting money off of D&D players. So if some team came up with this idea or helped spring this game, which then got them lots of royalty and exposure, I feel like you're supposed to keep this team and have them keep hitting home runs for you. So that's weird, but even Game of the Year couldn't dodge this.
Jeez. That's too bad.
It's not like they couldn't do anything about it. They just chose not to take the decision tree that would allow them to keep their, the team that's hitting the home runs. Like I think
this was such an obvious home run that it was strange. Okay. From Dio Govic, are threats with continuous value overstated in standard? Is tempo being underutilized as a mechanic, which should increase build variety?
Tempo?
Like
tempo.
So we like tempo. So tempo cards instead of perpetual value like Shieldred.
Are we talking like
I don't know. I'm imagining like mono blue Delver bouncer thing, like that style of tempo. Fairies, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's what they.
Enough, right?
Yeah. The problem is tempo's ability to let something slide and not care was fine, right? So I don't think there's any way you can roll back the design of like just generically good things now. Right? Like there's too many generically good cards.
everything's a must deal with threat, because if your opponent's just playing like the generically good cards with the static abilities or whatever, like if one of them slips through, it's probably going to beat you. So it just puts so much pressure on a deck to like be able to answer every single one of them or else lose, especially with the tempo plan where you're like chipping in for a couple points of damage here or there. Your clock's not that fast. So I think that's really the issue, is the good cards are just too good for that plan to be successful in Standard right now. Do you think that'll ever change? Like, will it ever go back, or are we just like the current era of design? Like, no, probably not, right?
So I think currently in Standard, a 3-drop will kill you if left unchecked.
Yep.
2 drops currently, are there 2 drops that snowball out of control? Currently, no, right? They're just strong.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, though, right?
Mosswood Red Knight, Richard. Mosswood Red Knight.
Okay.
But you don't need to kill. That just keeps hitting you. But it's like something like Fable. If you keep letting that hit you every turn, you're gonna lose. And also, if it flips, you're gonna lose.
I think they start at 3 mostly.
So they start at 3. I feel they're gonna
Subterranean.
too soon. Oh, like Luminar
Schooner. I guess Schooner maybe.
Schooner
Luminar
is
Asteroid
good.
of old.
Yeah.
You have like
Looter
Arbin.
Scooter. You want to go really old? Smuggler Cop. So there have been threats at 2 that actually end the game.
Yeah,
and
like
then
and then
3 is like Oko, Fable, things like that.
Sure.
So I don't know. Like you can't really tempo past it if you have to remove everything. It's very difficult.
There's a lot
when
of
was the last tempo
twos
deck we
across the
had?
board. I mean, we just also had Fairy. We still have Fairy Mastermind, which is a tempo card, but that's now just played in good stuff.
I mean, Fairies has kind of disappeared, right? Since since Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Like, it was kind of a thing near the top tiers right after Wilds of Eldraine, but like with the newest shifts to the meta, I haven't seen fairies, like actual fairies, in forever.
Yeah. And
I
also
think people don't like tempo.
I think it's
anytime there's a good tempo deck, like the majority of the player base was very unhappy about it because the true tempo deck prevents you from doing anything, and while you're dying, right? And it's like Control, but they're nicer and then they kill you immediately. But it's the same feeling, right? Like nothing sticks, everything goes back. You can't win the race, and then you feel sad after you played your match. So I don't think Wizards wants true tempo to come back as well, or like at least it being like tier 1.
The closest thing we have to that is like what Dimir mid range, or maybe that Azorius aggro deck using Spyglass Siren. It's got Warden of the Skies and all of that stuff. But like for the most part, I am very curious as to like, you know, there's actually a lot of really good stuff early on that it's so hard to pilot a tempo deck. So even if you were good at it, like it's like, why am I? It's a little bit like the fairies problem. Like back when I still play that in Modern. Like it would be more so like, why am I working so hard? The little bit of the Jund problem as well. Why am I working so absurdly hard to have maybe 0.5% better win, like win rate on some matchups, because you have no free matchups. Just every matchup is a slog, and you have to work your life out of it, force out for it. So I just don't see a reason why you would care to play tempo, other than you just want to be miserable for the sake of being miserable.
That's every mid-range player. We exist. They're out there.
I mean, look, I love it. I love, pushing a dead archetype as well, but like it's like there's that, and then on top of that, it's hard to beat tempo when Blood Tithe Harvester exists. That's just straight up a 2-drop that comes down and just answers the board and beats you. Yeah. So it's kind of hard right now to be a tempo deck.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for tempo. Although at least Standard's in a pretty good place right now. I think. So that's the good news, even if tempo's not there.
I'm sure you're okay with that, Seth. You probably don't miss it.
Yeah. Oh my god!
I don't.
Mono Blue Curious Obsession is like my least favorite deck of all time. I hated that deck. That's the last time I remember tempo being really good, and I was miserable. Anyway, I think that's all the time we got for today. Richard, if people want to send in fish mail for next week or in the future, where should they send them?
All right, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 464 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So, Richard Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we'll be back next week Actually, just kidding. Next week's the holidays. We won't be back next week. We'll be back in 2 weeks to wrap up 2023. So until then, everyone, have an amazing holiday season. Thanks for listening this year, and this is the crew signing out.